Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, still coming in hot from Buenos Aires. Folks, are in December now, 1 month left, T-minus 30 days till the new year. Let's finish strong here, and we have an absolute banger for today's show. The one and only Arthur Breitman coming on the show today, co-founder of Tezos. He's a computer scientist and entrepreneur with a background in mathematics and comp sci. Prior to Tezos, he worked in quantitative finance for Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, and was also a researcher at Google and Waymo. He graduated from the École Polytechnique and the Courant Institute of NYU, where he studied applied mathematics, member of the Tezos Foundation Council, and also a director at Trilitech, a London-based adoption team for the Tezos blockchain. What a bio. Arthur, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on. How are you doing this lovely evening?
Thank you, Matt. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good, mate. When you and I were getting going here, you're in London, one of my favorite cities in the world. And we heard some folks going on a pub crawl outside. The only city I've ever been in the whole world where after work, everyone has a couple chilly ones, smoke some cigarettes outside, on the roads, great work-life sort of balance culture. That's got to be one of the best parts about London.
Well, I don't really drink beer or wine, which is why they kicked me out of France. So it's lost upon me, unfortunately.
I love it. It is wild, though. It's a great culture.
But people seem to enjoy it.
I mean, it's awesome. London's one of the best cities in the world. Okay, let's get into it here. Present day crypto. Guys, we're recording early December. This episode is going to air on Monday, December 8th. Just to kick the show off, what's your TLDR? Too long didn't read. Sort of Cole's notes, Spark notes, present day crypto. We still buzzing? Are we in a bear market? We don't need to talk about price predictions or anything. Just the sentiment that you felt as a builder. Has anything changed, or is it just status quo as usual?
Well, I don't think anything has fundamentally changed, but definitely I would say, I don't know if it's my sentiment or if I'm just reflecting the sentiment of everyone else. It's very reflective. Everyone is kind of trying to I don't think anyone feels bullish or bearish. To some extent, people feel like it's how you feel other people are feeling, and then it's all reflective. And so obviously everyone's kind of worried now and a bit bearish. We've had drops in Bitcoin. We're way off the all-time high. I think we're around 80. There was a bit of recovery today, but yesterday was $85,000 per Bitcoin, now like 90,000. And obviously all the other cryptocurrencies with it went down against the dollar. We still have one Tez equal one Tez, one Bitcoin equal one Bitcoin. And then we started seeing some of the unwind of MicroStrategies. Was a lot in the news yesterday. It was Michael Saylor, who went from saying it mathematically goes up to infinity to going well, maybe we'll sell some and we'll build a dollar reserve. So there's a bit of reckoning to happen. But I don't think anything, I don't think any of the fundamental story around crypto has changed. Just, I would say the fundamental values is there, having an asset that cannot easily be seized, that can truly be yours, that can be transacted online. There's a great deal of value here, and that none of that is going away. With that said, it's not clear. Crypto as a sector has enjoyed very, very high valuation compared to the utility it has delivered historically, and I would say with each cycle that's coming more and more in line. So from that perspective, we have a bit of a adjustment. I also think that for a lot of people, there was a lot of crypto where they were looking at crypto as a bit of funny speculation money that they could do. And this was a period where there was relatively not a whole lot of technological stories or exciting stories on the stock markets. We had a long period of technological stagnation where you get slightly better social media, all of that. Now you have, people they are getting excited about AI, which is generally really going through a massive build-up period. They're getting excited about quantum. A lot of, I'm very skeptical about some of the quantum companies out there, but there's definitely a lot of excitement in the equity market. And so that's taking a lot of the breath out of the excitement people could be getting from crypto. And we're getting more towards okay, what is this actually used for? And there's a reality here, it's there, but it may not live up to people's valuations.
Yeah. Well said. I like that. Okay, let's jump into Tezos here. I love the name too. Anything with a Z in it or a Z, I love, as I'm a little biased with my last name too. Before we get into Tezos, I've always wondered, the ticker is different. You guys call it Tez, which I always call it Tez. I never call it XTZ.
Oh, thank you.
But why XTZ and why not TEZ or TEZ?
Yeah, I mean, it was a trend at a time where the white paper for Tezos came out. And I think it was a good trend. It was a trend of using, so there's an ISO for currencies. So the ISO for currency says that the US dollar is USD. Starts with a country and then the currency. The euro is EUR, but that's a bit of an exception here because it's the
CAD, good example, Canadian dollar. Yeah.
or PHP, the Philippine peso. You
Yeah.
have all of this, and this ISO specifies that the codes for non-governmental currencies or like other forms of currencies should start with an X. So an example is XAU, which is X for non-currency, not non-governmental, and AU, which is the atomic code for
Yeah.
gold. And so this is a time where you had Monero, XMR, you had Stellar, X, the Lumen, so XLM, and Tez, XTZ. So it was following an ISO code to try to be in line with how things are accounted for in financial systems.
Okay. Hey, you taught me something new today. I love that. I actually didn't know that. So thank you for that. Okay. Give us the elevator pitch on Tezos for those who don't know. I could be wrong. Still, I believe a top 100 blockchain, not the price matters, but 48 cents today and $520 million market cap. You and the team have done incredible work. You guys have been around for a long time too. One of the GOATs, one of the OGs in the space. Give us the elevator pitch, give us the TLDR, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. And save tokenized uranium for me because I'd love to, if possible, save that for the second half of the show because that excites the living heck out of me.
Well, I would, maybe by market capitalization top 100, it's not even blockchain. They count everything in there. So they'll count like stable coin. They'll count.
That's true.
Things.
Yeah.
If you look at a picture of like L1, it looks a little better. And no matter what, number one in our hearts. So what's Tezos? There's three ideas which are key pillars at the origin of Tezos. The number one is governance and upgrades. So blockchain should be able to upgrade because there's innovation, there's research, the systems are getting better and better, and you don't want to be stuck with, whatever the state of the art of the technology was the day your blockchain launched. That would be silly. At the same time, you also don't want to say, to have a centralized, development team that can push updates willy-nilly on the blockchain, because then you can't really trust it. It's just some company's product that you're going to be using, and then all of a sudden they could yak the product or they could push something bad. So that's a criticism that's made by Bitcoin of upgrades. They say like, if we let people upgrade willy-nilly, then anything could happen, and then people could start, seizing currency and doing all these bad things. And that's a valid criticism. The problem is like the option of doing nothing is not a good one. Especially, I was mentioning quantum earlier. At some point, I don't know if it's 5 years, I don't know if it's 10 or 15, but at some point there are going to be some quantum threats to public key cryptography based on abelian groups like Bitcoin, and they are going to need to upgrade, and they need to figure it out sooner rather than later. And the whole mentality of like, we're all enemies and we're never going to agree on anything and we can't upgrade, it's not going to play well. So you need to be able to upgrade. You need to have a governance mechanism so that it's not just, the philosopher king out there saying like, everyone upgrade and then everyone has to upgrade. Okay, so that's the first aspect. The second aspect was new. It's not new now because, we won, but proof of stake matters. Proof of stake is the best system for consensus. It's the best way to run your blockchain. And at the time where the position paper comes out, the consensus is that proof of stake probably doesn't work. In fact, there's like papers proving that proof of stake cannot work. It's a bad distribution mechanism. You have all this argument that proof of stake never going to work. Now, aside from Bitcoin, the vast majority of everything runs on proof of stake.
Yeah.
Like what's left on proof of work? You have Ethereum Classic. You have Monero, which is getting 51% attacked. There's Zcash, which is like looking into how to move to proof of stake. So proof of stake is completely won. And, one of my motivation on Tezos, it's a friend of mine who phrased it like this. And I was like, did you have a point? Was like, you're all wrong. Proof of stake works. I'm going to show it. So
you gotta have skin in the game. You gotta have skin in the game. Have to.
The third pillar was smart contract security, which I still think is a very important thing. And there was a lot of work done on really good smart contract security on Tezos. It's still very valuable. Today, it will change in the future, I'm pretty sure. But I think today there's no product market fit for security of smart contracts on blockchains. And the reason is because most applications are gambling. And so if the main application is like you're going to buy a token and you're hoping that in the next few weeks is going to go 100x, that means efficient market that there's
It's
a
gonna drop.
99% chance it's going to go to zero and a 1%
Yeah.
chance it's going to go 100x, right?
Yeah.
And if there's a 99% chance it's going to go to zero, and I tell you, oh, but wait, it's not 99, it's actually 99.01 because there's this 1 in 100,000 chance there's a bug that's going to take all your money away. You don't care. So depending on the risk profile, having additional smart contract risk is not something that people care that much about. Same thing is like you lend to DeFi markets, right? Smart contract risk means that you're going to get less capital available because people are going to think twice about like lending to these markets.
Yeah.
Which means people are going to pay higher yield. Again, they don't care if they are basically trading on margin and hoping they're going to 3x their money, like an extra 10, 20 basis point, 40 basis point, whatever it takes to pay for smart contract risk is not going to move their behavior. So you need to have less degen applications for people to actually care more about smart contract security, but it will come. But, the reality of it is like we've seen bridges hacked for, hundreds of millions of dollars, and then people just shrug it and then keep using the same bridge because they would rather use a bridge that's been hacked.
Yeah.
Then it's like, it's just not worth the effort to figure something else out. So it will come back, I think, once the applications mature and we get into other matters. The other thing is we build this smart contract language to be easy to formally verify. Formal verification is evolving really quickly with AI. We now have a lot of AI systems which are capable of outputting really good formal proofs. So the thing to understand with formal verification is like you can use it to prove math theorem. So there's this company recently that proved that they solved one of Euler's problem, I think problem 124. Funny enough, it's a company that's co-founded by the founder of Robinhood, I think called Harmonic something. So they prove this like math theorem. And people keep moving the block with the goalpost. They say, oh, but it was actually an easier problem than we thought. But it's still like it was an open math problem. Now, solving this problem is very tricky. You need to like think of very, very clever proofs. Formal verification of a smart contract, you are not proving a mathematical theorem that's complicated. Like most of the time, it's dead simple business logic. It's just that it's tedious. And AI is very, very good at doing things which are like easy to like explain overall, but kind of tedious, and you really need to go through it. So I think we're going to see a lot more tools for formal verification. So the cost of doing it is going to keep going down, and we're going to see more of it deployed on blockchains. So those three pillars, that's your version of Tezos. Nowadays, I would add the fourth one, which is scalability. So we've been making forays into making Tezos as scalable as possible, as fast as possible, as low latency as possible, being able to accommodate a wide variety of applications.
I love it. Wow. What a great breakdown. I mean, I love killer one lines, Arthur, and that I don't think I've ever heard the line, there is no PMF for security on blockchains before. Legit. I don't think I've ever heard that.
It's definitely provocative, but it's true.
Never heard that. Okay. That's gonna make my head spin a little. I like that a lot. You're on a roll. We got to take a quick break. Give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show when we get back. I can't wait to dive into uranium.io. That's a fire domain too, by the way. I don't know how much you guys snagged that for, but that is a great domain. Until we get into that, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Okay. So many ways you can take this, but I gotta go into uranium.io. This is so freaking cool. No one has ever been able to snag making physical uranium accessible to retail investors for the first time.
Yeah.
What like this seems like part can and will make a bunch of money, part passion project. Like, how did this start? How did you snag the domain? To walk us through why uranium is so useful in today's world. Like, give us what the heck happened here? I want to know everything about it.
Yeah. So, there's the old Paul Graham adage, which is like, build something people want, and an easy thing to find out what people want is like, at least build something you want.
Yeah.
Because maybe there's other people like you, and at least there's one person who wants this.
Yeah.
And one user is better than zero. And I've been interested in the uranium market for a long time. I've generally been interested in commodities, since my time at Goldman Sachs. Really, I was trading natural gas and oil, and a little bit of, even a tiny bit of corn, but it was around commodities. And funny enough, a lot of commodities people really got cryptocurrency very early compared to other people, because they're used to things that trade based on supply and demand and not so much cash flows. So the security people, really didn't get that. They were like, what's the discounted cash flow for this thing? That's not how you think about those systems. And I was interested in uranium because I've been interested in nuclear power, in particular in the changing perception of nuclear power among the population. Specifically, if you look in the US, I remember seeing some polls showing there was an age divide in attitude towards nuclear power, support or against nuclear power. And specifically, like where you've had a position in the past has been mostly around the environmental movement and around the left. But younger generation on the left in the US are now supportive of nuclear power. And the main reason I would say is that the cause against nuclear power, which was, accidents and the risk of nuclear proliferation, are further away. One, I think there's a better understanding now that the safety profile of nuclear is better than that of many other technologies. Even in terms of radiation, you get more radiation from coal being burned than from uranium. And two, non-proliferation has worked to some extent, like the shadow of a huge nuclear exchange during the Cold War is further away. And then on top of that, the environmental movement cares now a lot more about things like global warming.
Yeah.
And so nuclear doesn't have this carbon impact. Now, which is not to say that everyone in the environmental movement embraces nuclear, but it's enough to shift attitude. And generally speaking, once you have more than 50% of the population in favor of something and, the thing makes sense, it tends to happen, right? The politicians will respond to the voter, to the incentive of getting votes. So I was like, it's going to turn. People are going to start building nuclear power again. And I started looking at ways to get exposure to uranium. And I found that there were not many good options. There were closed-end funds that were trading in London and in the US. No ways to really get exposure directly to physical uranium without a fund. And, there were nuclear stocks, but that's a bit different. I got really interested in 2021. And I figured, like, it's a huge asset class. It's very important. It's clearly going to become more important in the coming years. And, like, there's no way for people to trade it. And I would see people bring on chain a lot of, either they would bring on chain some long tail stuff that people don't really want to trade, and it could be a good project, but someone will say like, oh, I have a coconut farm. I'm going to tokenize my coconut farm. That's great. And I like, coconut farm can be a good investment, but like it's niche, right? It's like how many people are going to get to buy the coconut farm. And most of the time people would do this because they assume that, oh, all of these people with a lot of crypto wealth, they surely want to diversify, and that's very diversified. But not really, that's not the type of investors they are. And with uranium, or they would go and say, oh, we'll tokenize gold. Great. They are like 20 gold tokens. And not only that, if you want to buy gold, you could buy a gold token. You could buy a gold ETF. You could buy physical gold and keep it under your mattress. You could buy gold in a vault. There's so many vehicles to buy gold. So uranium, huge asset class. I think decent consumer market fit with crypto. And I would say, much like crypto, it's a technologically flavored commodity.
Yeah.
And no market. It's just like there's just almost no other asset like this. And I'm like, why is no one doing this? So we started working on this. Yeah.
So I love this. So U308 is uranium.
So U308 is uranium oxide. So U3 is 3 atoms of uranium, and 08, it's oxygen. So it's 8 atoms of oxygen. So
Gotcha.
uranium oxide, also known as yellow cake, it's this yellowish powder oxide that you get. You dig in the ground, it's the most unrefined form of it.
Okay. So when you participate in the tokenized uranium, you have physical, it says verified ownership, transparent evidence of physical use U308 stored in a regulated depository and held in a dedicated custody account. How do you get the uranium? Like, what country are you buying it from? Where does it, like, walking through all this? Again, I'm so curious. Arthur, we've done almost 500 episodes. Never have we experienced anything like this on the pod. This is wild.
Well, the uranium is stored with Cameco in Canada. So Cameco is this big nuclear company in Canada. They have diversified operation, but one of the main things they do is they are one of three. I think there's three in the world, like three big ones in the world, centers for actually holding uranium. So different people have accounts with Cameco, and then they store their uranium here. So some of it comes from Canada, some of it comes from the US, comes from different places. Since the war with Ukraine, I think there's a bit of a split. So a lot of uranium is also produced in Kazakhstan. But around the same time, and there's a depository in Kazakhstan, but the one that you get from the exclusionary token is only with Cameco. I think there was a bit of a split during the war where it's almost comical, but at the same time, the US is, said like, we're going to ban imports of Russian uranium. And then Russia was like, we're going to ban export of Russian uranium. It's like, we don't want it. Well, you can't get it anyway. So yeah, there's a bit of a split that happens in the market, but for anything that touches like Europe, North America, all of that, there's another big deposit in France as well. That's where you have another big, I say deposit, I mean like warehouse. But yeah, the one we tokenize is Cameco.
Okay. Very, very interesting. And the tokenization process, is it one-to-one? Like explaining this to a normie perhaps who doesn't really understand how tokenization works.
Sure.
Where is it traded on behalf of the user? Walk me through the whole process.
Yeah. So I mean, from a legal structural point of view, there's a trust account. There's a trust account which is an account as Cameco, sits on top of some uranium, and then the trust beneficiaries are tokenized on the ledger. So by holding the token on a ledger, you become the ultimate beneficiary owner of a fraction of the uranium that's stored in the account. It's pretty straightforward from that perspective. And how do you trade it? How do you buy it? You could go to uranium.io. You can buy it on chain. So directly using a DEX. There's an order book actually that sits on the blockchain, and you can put in orders. So using a stable coin, you can exchange it and buy it at the current spot price. You can also find it on some crypto exchanges, like Gate, for example, has it, and a few others have it. So you have access so this way. The other thing you can do is, if you're like much larger and institutional, if you happen to have an account with a lot of physical uranium, you could ask for it to be tokenized. So that can be convenient for you if you want to have it in a more liquid form and where it can transfer more easily. Vice versa, if you have a bunch of token, you could also you could redeem them for your physical uranium directly in an account directly in your name.
That's wild. But
sometimes people ask, can I take the physical delivery? And the answer is like, well, yes, but
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Like, yes, but what is like with a certain size? I think the minimum size for just like, having an account and doing a transfer over there would be about 50,000 pounds. So not British pound of weight. And it's about like $70, $80 a pound. So it gets pricey. And the second thing is, you also obviously need to have some licenses in order to actually go and take physical deliveries. So you and I probably not, but some people can.
And let's say we had the licenses. I mean, where do you even put it? Like, you would need an industrial, enterprise grade factory, wouldn't you? Like, where do you store? I don't know anyone.
The question is, what do you do with it? The main thing the main thing you don't want to do with this is refine it. That's the only thing you can really. You could move it to a different place, but the only meaningful thing to do with it is refine it, and then once you refine it, send it to a nuclear power plant.
Wow, that is wild. Okay. I love this. This was a lot of fun here. Going back to Tezos again, you guys do so many things. I love the name of the upgrades, the Mumbai to Quebec upgrades. I love how you guys sort of put in little Easter eggs with all your little things here.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about Tezos, and even just, being a crypto sort of Twitter degen for a while, a lot of people, and perhaps I'm wrong here, my apologies for putting words in your community's mouth, but I feel like a lot of people sort of see you guys as like the artist blockchain. Is there any validity to that?
There is, yes. We're not just about art, but if you want to do art, Tezos is the best place to do it. And all of artists, mints their art on Tezos, collect their art on Tezos, or collectors buy art on Tezos. So yeah, there's a huge artist community on Tezos, and they use different platforms for it. So object.com is very popular. So is Teya, so is AKSwap. There's a few of these going around, and it's a community that's been going really strong since 2021.
I love it. Anything else, mate, before we wrap up here? Anything else Tezos related? You guys are shipping at a crazy amount. I mean, 18 upgrades without a hard fork. I know you talked about quantum
19.
a little. 19 now, 19 upgrades.
Yeah.
Do you have a timeline for quantum? Are you worried about quantum? I know you touch about it a little bit?
Here's my position.
Does Tezos need to do anything to be quantum safe?
So I'm not an expert in the matter, but I think I can identify expertise. And for decades I've been following. Maybe decades. Yeah, I guess decades. I've been following Scott Aronson, who's a professor of computer science. He focuses on quantum computing from a theoretical perspective, but he's also written critically about the inflated claims of quantum computing companies. He's written about D-Wave over the years. And so he's definitely on the side of like being very skeptical of progress. And, recently in a blog post, he says like, we might see quantum computers running Shor's algorithm and breaking RSA and before the next presidential election. Unlikely, but not impossible. And I'm like, okay. So if the guy that I treat as being quite conservative on this issue starts mentioning timelines in this range, I'm paying attention. So there are things to be done. The thing is, I don't think there's it's not a major R&D challenge because it's mostly an engineering challenge and the technological solutions are known. The trade-off is the following. You can implement them now and be very safe, but they're going to get better. And so if you wait a bit, they're going to get more performance. So like if you do it now, you're going to lose a lot of performance in certain things. And it feels like, is it really worth it? So it does definitely, like I would say over the past couple months, my timelines have decreased a bit. I think it's worth doing things. And you can do it, you can stage it. So I think you start by doing user signatures first because users and balances is the thing that's going to take the longest to migrate. And then you look at the core operations and the consensus operation towards the very end. We also have an EVM compatibility layer on Tezos. So now if you're building EVM apps, you can run them on a rollup on Tezos. And we've had a lot of DeFi activity on there. And we're adding support for more mainstream programming languages, including Python, JavaScript, and more.
I love it. Arthur, what an episode. This has been an absolute treat. I got a lot of research to do, and I really appreciate your time here. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and, of course, Tezos online and on socials?
Absolutely. So if you're looking for Tezos on social, it's at Tezos, T-E-Z-O-S. Fairly straightforward on X and a few other platforms. Myself, I'm at Arthur B. Some of what I say is about Tezos. You'll hear me rant about French, US, and UK politics and a bunch of completely other unrelated topics. So I just have to warn you, like I don't have separate accounts for Tezos stuff. So really, if you just want the Tezos information, at Tezos is probably the better handle. And of course, on Tezos.com, and for Uranium, uranium.io.
What's the last thing? The domain story. Can you tell us how much you got it for?
The domain story. I don't remember. I think we had to purchase it. Not that much. Not that much. It's a .io. It's not .com.
Was it hard to get?
No, I don't think we had too much of a challenge.
Okay,
I don't think we had too much of a challenge. We also have metals.io, so we want to.
That's a good one too.
That was a bit more. Yeah.
Okay, I love it.
We got exciting. I'm making an announcement. We got a big, exciting domain name recently. That one was a big one, probably the biggest one. The most impressive one we got. That's coming up in a few months.
Okay, when that comes out, round 2, you're coming back on. Folks, what an episode with Arthur Breitman, co-founder of Tezos. Absolute banger. A little bit of everything Tezos related and a deep dive on tokenized uranium, which really, really piqued my interest, put my head in a blender. I got a lot of work to do, a lot of homework to do. Huge shout out to Arthur and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe and hammer that like button. To my team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags. And as always, keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Ciao.